His team right now is the FPI favorite to win the NFC. His old team, the Patriots, are 2-4. Their quarterbacks have thrown 3 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. They've scored 12 points or fewer in 3 consecutive games. With Brady, they never did that in 2 straight. And they are 2.5 games out of the division lead. That is their largest deficit since 2000, which was the year before Tom Brady became their quarterback. So, does all of this mean it was more Brady than Bill all those years in Foxborough? Of course not. But if you were one who wanted to make that argument and all you needed were the numbers to back you up, Mr. Hembo and I simply say, you're welcome. Those are the numbers. Well, let me bring the crew in here to react. I'm looking for a smile. I'm looking for a laugh. I'm looking for a reaction. I got one in Dominique Foxworth shaking his head at me. What do you say, Neek?
I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch. I understand how you couch that last little statement and said, I'm not saying it, but if you wanted to say it, here are the numbers for you. But, I mean, it's not a fair situation. It's only been like 7 weeks of football, and Bill Belichick has come into the season with several starters opting out from coronavirus. Then his quarterback gets it, and we don't know how that's impacting him on his return. Then his best cornerback, possibly the best defensive player in the league, gets the coronavirus and has to sit out, and we're not sure how that's going to impact him coming back. Like, I think it's very difficult to draw these conclusions. I think this team would be a lot better if it weren't for those circumstances, and I'm pretty sure Tom Brady wouldn't be having the success that he's having if his team was hit as aggressively by the virus in those situations as Bill Belichick was. So I think you're probably right. If you have to pick one, Belichick or a franchise quarterback, you're probably safer going with a franchise quarterback, but I'm not so sure that I'm ready to give all of their 20 years of dynasty over to give most of the credit to Brady because of 7 weeks of football so far this season.
RC, what do you say?
Listen, this is the question I ask you. Are the Miami Sharks a legendary football team because Tony D'Amato gives great pregame speeches or because Willie Beeman was his quarterback? I think it's about Willie Beeman. Listen, quarterback is just a more important position in football than head coach it is. I mean, I think when you look at what the quarterback can do, when you look at many of these great head coaches, they have certain teams that don't do as well because they don't have someone at that position. We can look at Kyle Shanahan, who I think is one of the great football minds, until he got Jimmy Garoppolo, someone that could do some of the things that he wanted to at that position. He didn't win football games. Now you look at Tom Brady going over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, he's assembled a better unit of people around him, but that team is playing so much better offensively. Even Andy Reid, who we always knew was a Hall of Fame caliber coach and had Donovan McNabb. He's had Alex Smith, who number 1 overall pick, number 2 overall pick, but he gets Patrick Mahomes and finally gets over the hump. I don't necessarily think it has to do with the 2 people we're talking about individually. And I agree with Dominique. We can't take 7 weeks and say that Tom Brady was more important to the New England Patriots dynasty than Bill Belichick is. But I think this does show us that a great player at the quarterback position beats a great head coach every day of the week.
Let me get Graziano in here. What's your reaction? You covered that team, the Patriots anyway, last week, and you've been around them a lot. What's your reaction to the numbers?
I think there's no way we're ever going to answer that question, right? This is like LeBron versus Jordan. It'll be debated forever. Who was more responsible for it, Belichick or Brady?
That question's answered, Dan. That's not the same. Not the same.
Certainly,
not the same.
There's no way to answer a question like that. Certainly, you can't do it with just a half a season worth of evidence. But what I thought here was Brady identified that the roster in New England was hollowed out and he needed to get somewhere better for the final chapter of his career, whereas Belichick is kind of stuck with it because he is the system in New England that Brady could bail out on. So I don't buy Dominique's theory that the difference between Tampa Bay's roster and New England's is that one was hit by the coronavirus and the other wasn't. I think on paper, the Tampa Bay had better anyway. To say the Patriots have a lot of problems is kind of like saying Ryan's been watching a lot of movies during quarantine.
Let's hold this thought.
Anything can happen.
I have to get to some other stuff here, but I want to come back to this because there's a lot of this I think we haven't explored. So Nick Scialla, my producer, let's come back to this. Meantime, I need to go to this. Robert Stanberry Olney III, you know him as Buster, is going up against Hembo, and here we go. Buster Olney, including the postseason, the Dodgers went 56-22 by winning percentage. That's the Football League on Get Up this morning. The Dallas Cowboys made a deal yesterday. They're not bringing people in, they're sending them away. They traded Everson Griffin to the Lions for a conditional draft pick. Meanwhile, on the radio yesterday, Jerry Jones getting testy when asked if he thought his team has a void of leadership.
But seriously, where would you have a leadership void? Is it an experience void? Is it a talent void? Is it a leadership void? I'm not trying to be cute here. The answer is no. The answer is no.
I'm asking.
There's not a. Well, just shut up and let me answer. No. When I go into the locker room, there's no leadership void in my eyes.
So everything is going against them, including the schedule. According to our analytics, the Cowboys are expected to lose all of their remaining games. Assuming that happened and they went 2-14, it would be their worst record since they were 1-15 in 1989. That was their first year with Jimmy Johnson. We all know he turned that into a great team ultimately. My football crew is ready to go here. RC and Nico with us this morning, and Dan Graziano is here. Dan, let me quickly start with you. They make the trade yesterday. They don't bring people in, they send them away. Is that should we expect to see more of that between now and the deadline on Tuesday?
Yeah, but on that level, right? Guys that they have brought in recently don't necessarily fit on defense. A guy like Dontari Poe on the defensive line could be a candidate to be traded or even cut. So look for moves like that. I don't get the sense they're selling off major pieces. They really wouldn't be able to with the contracts some of their big guys have anyway. But yeah, I think they're going to shake things up on defense because, quite honestly, they're getting up 35 points a game. Who can you not live without on a defense like that?
That's fair. And so the big blow up of this team might come after the season. We don't expect it to be this week. Meanwhile, Ryan Clark, when you listen to Jerry Jones' comments on the radio yesterday, what thoughts go through your mind?
How bad do the Dallas Cowboys have to be for someone this rich, this powerful to be upset? I think this is the most upset the underlings have gotten the boss man since Billy Ray Valentine and Louis Winthrop went at Randolph and Mortimer Duke. Like, this is big. This is serious. This is big. This is a guy, Jerry Jones, who felt like he built this team to contend. This team is built with people that he has handpicked. He's giving out $100 million contract, $90 million contracts to all of these people. And he's expecting to win. He's expecting to have leaders. And this thing has gone downhill, and it's gone downhill fast, and he sees no way of coming out of it. So when you walk into a locker room of your making, and you say, I don't see a leader by skill, I don't see a leader by experience, you know what you're saying? I messed it up. This is on me. You guys aren't good enough. And when you have to have that realization, that's why you act the way you do with people who are asking very valid questions. Jerry Jones made this bed. Now it's time to sleep in it.
Absolutely. That was Trading Places, by the way. I finally got a reference on a Wednesday on the show. Meanwhile, Dominique, let me come to you. What is the Dak in all of this? How does the Dak Prescott sort of figure into all of this?
I mean, you talk about a leadership void. When your quarterback is gone, you have a leadership void. When your quarterback is gone, you have a talent void. And I feel like this potential championship window that we thought the Cowboys had around when Dak was a rookie till now, it's closing, and it's closing in an ugly way, in part because they didn't pay Dak last year or pay Dak before this season started. Because now Dak, the one thing that we thought wasn't going to happen was he going to get injured, and somehow his value has gone up. The way these quarterbacks have played has made Dak even more and more valuable and given him more and more leverage, while the cap is also probably going down. So it's going to be hard to put together a viable product for the Cowboys going forward. So it goes back to what RC said. Jerry's realizing that Jerry messed up, and there's nothing they can do about it at this point.
Yep.
We will do much more football as this continues. Guys, stay with me. We'll be busy all day. And by the way, I have a poll question today, and we have a sponsor. My poll question is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. And the question, very simply, is this: which team most needs to make a deal before the deadline? The Bears, the Browns, the Eagles, the Patriots? You can go to my Twitter page at ESPN Greeny and cast your vote. That brings us to this. Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence got everybody talking yesterday as he left the door open verbally about his football future, despite previously saying he plans on heading to the NFL after this season. He is the presumptive #1 pick in the draft. He says he hasn't ruled out coming back to Clemson. Listen.
We'll just have to see how things unfold. Honestly, just really playing this year, putting everything I have into it, not really focusing on next year, whether, I leave or stay or whatever. Obviously, I have the option to do either one. Kind of my mindset's been that I'm going to move on, but who knows? There's a lot of things that could happen no matter where I go, whether that's across the country, whether that's close to home, where I stay another year, no matter what it is, we'll work it out.
All right, now, just how good is he? Let me put these numbers up here, okay? Over his last 16 games, he's 15-1. He's thrown 45 touchdowns and 5 picks. In the NFL's history, those two you see on your screen, Brady that year and Rodgers that year, are the only ones to put up numbers that good over the course of a single season. Now, for the record, if you're watching the show a month ago, I told you this was going to happen. Dan Graziano, how seriously should one take this threat by Trevor Lawrence to go back to school?